Imagine this. It's late. The room is quiet, but your mind isn't. You're lying in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying a decision you made earlier. Maybe it was small. The way you responded to a message, the tone you used in a meeting, the restaurant you chose. Or maybe it was bigger. A job opportunity, a relationship choice, a move, a commitment. Either way, it's looping, over and over. You hear your own voice in your head asking, was that the right move? And no matter how many times you replay it, you don't feel clearer. You feel heavier, more uncertain, slightly ashamed that something so simple can shake you this much. Or maybe it's not just one decision. Maybe it's every decision. You hesitate before you speak. You second guess after you act. You research endlessly before committing. You ask 3 different people what they think, and even after they answer, you still don't feel settled. It's like your brain refuses to sign off on anything without launching a full internal investigation. And the exhausting part? Even when things turn out fine, you still doubt yourself next time. If that feels uncomfortably accurate, stay with me. Because doubting every decision you make isn't random, it isn't stupidity, it isn't weakness, and it definitely isn't proof that you're incapable. It's a pattern, a learned one. And once you understand what's actually happening underneath it, you can start loosening its grip. Let's slow this down. On the surface, chronic doubt looks like indecisiveness. But underneath, it's usually fear. Not fear of choosing, fear of what the choice means. When you doubt every decision, you're not just asking, is this right? You're asking something much deeper. What does this say about me if it's wrong? If I choose badly, does that mean I'm careless? If I misjudge this, does that mean I'm behind? If I trust myself and it fails, does that mean I'm not capable? Notice how quickly a simple action becomes identity. A wrong decision isn't just a mistake, it becomes a verdict on who you are. And when your brain believes that every choice is a referendum on your intelligence, worth, or future, of course it hesitates. Of course it overthinks. Of course it panics. Your brain thinks it's protecting you. Thousands of years ago, uncertainty could cost you everything. Choosing the wrong path, trusting the wrong person, misreading a threat. Those mistakes had serious consequences. So your nervous system evolved to reduce uncertainty. It scans for risk. It predicts outcomes. It replays scenarios. Back then, that hypervigilance was survival. But here's the problem. Your brain still reacts to social and emotional risk as if it's physical danger. Sending a risky text? Potential threat. Choosing a new career path? Possible exile from the tribe. Saying what you really think? Risk of rejection. Your body doesn't differentiate well between social discomfort and physical danger, so it treats decisions like life or death calculations. And if your brain's goal is total safety, it will never feel fully satisfied. Because no decision comes with complete certainty. Here's one of the deepest roots of decision doubt: perfectionism. Perfectionism doesn't always look polished. Sometimes it looks like hesitation. Sometimes it looks like endless research. Sometimes it looks like standing frozen between 2 options because neither feels flawless. When you doubt every decision, you're often chasing a perfect outcome that eliminates regret entirely. But no choice can guarantee that. Every decision closes doors. Every path excludes another. And if you struggle with doubt, it's usually because you're grieving the doors you didn't choose while questioning the one you did. You don't just want a good option. You want the option that ensures you'll never look back and think, I should have done something else. And that's an impossible standard. Regret is part of being human. Uncertainty is part of being alive. And when you demand zero risk from yourself, you create paralysis. Now let's go deeper. A lot of chronic self-doubt is learned. Maybe growing up, mistakes weren't safe. Maybe when you chose wrong, it wasn't treated as information. It was treated as failure. Maybe you were criticized harshly. Or maybe you were praised heavily when you succeeded, which quietly taught you that your value depended on getting things right. So now, every decision feels like a test, and every test feels like it's measuring your worth. If you grew up in an environment where approval was conditional, you might have learned that being correct equals being loved. Being competent equals being valued. So your brain tries to secure approval before acting. It asks others for reassurance. It gathers more data. It delays action until the risk feels minimal. But reassurance is temporary. It soothes the anxiety for a moment. Then the doubt returns. Because self-trust doesn't come from external confirmation, it comes from lived evidence. And this is the shift that changes everything. Confidence isn't certainty, it's resilience. Confident people aren't people who know they'll always choose correctly. They're people who trust themselves to handle the consequences if they don't. That's it. That's the secret. You don't need to know the outcome. You need to believe you can adapt. When you doubt every decision, what you're really doubting is your ability to recover. You're not afraid of being wrong. You're afraid of what being wrong will do to you emotionally. Will you spiral? Will you feel ashamed? Will you see yourself as incompetent? But look back at your life for a moment. Think about decisions you once agonized over. Some probably turned out well, some didn't. But you're still here. You adapted, you adjusted, you learned. You survived outcomes you once thought would break you. That's evidence, real evidence. And your brain rarely pauses to collect it. So here's something practical. After you make a decision, say this clearly to yourself. This was the best choice I could make with who I am and what I knew at the time. That sentence grounds you in reality, because decisions are made with limited information, always. There is no omniscient version of you operating with full foresight. And then create a boundary in your mind. Unless new facts emerge, the case is closed. Not feelings, facts. Feelings will fluctuate, anxiety will whisper. But unless there is new, concrete information, reopening the decision is just rumination disguised as responsibility. Now let's talk about something uncomfortable. Sometimes doubting every decision is a form of control. If you never fully commit, you never fully risk. If you always keep one foot out the door, you can tell yourself, well, I wasn't all in anyway. Doubt can protect your ego from visible failure, but it also protects you from growth. Not choosing boldly is still choosing. It's choosing stagnation. It's choosing safety over expansion. And while safety feels calm in the short term, over time it breeds frustration. Because deep down, you know you're capable of more than constant hesitation. Imagine what your life would look like if you trusted yourself 15% more. Not perfectly, just slightly more. You'd respond instead of rewrite messages 5 times. You'd accept opportunities without rehearsing every catastrophic outcome. You'd make small decisions quickly, building momentum instead of draining energy. Self-trust is built through reps. Small decisions, daily choices. Deciding what to eat without polling 3 people. Choosing what to wear without second-guessing. Speaking your opinion without mentally checking it against 10 possible reactions. Each small act of decisiveness strengthens the muscle. And here's another powerful shift. Separate outcome from identity. If a decision leads to an unwanted result, it doesn't mean you're flawed. It means the strategy didn't work. That's data. When a scientist runs an experiment and it fails, they don't collapse into existential doubt. They adjust variables. But when you internalize every outcome, you turn life into a personal judgment system. You are not the outcome of your last decision. You are a dynamic, learning system. And there's one more layer. Overexposure to options fuels doubt. We live in a world of endless choice. Career paths, relationship possibilities, content, advice. Everyone online has an opinion about what you should do with your life. When you consume too many perspectives, Your internal compass gets drowned out. So here's a system. Limit input before major decisions. Choose 2 or 3 trusted sources of advice, not 20. After that, sit in silence. Ask yourself what feels aligned, not what feels safest. Alignment often feels slightly uncomfortable but steady. Fear feels urgent and loud. Learn to distinguish between anxiety and intuition. Anxiety shouts worst-case scenarios. Intuition speaks quietly and consistently. And finally, accept this truth. There is no version of your life where you avoid all wrong turns. Growth requires friction. Clarity requires movement. You will choose paths that later shift. You will say things you later refine. That isn't failure. That's evolution. The goal is not to eliminate doubt completely. Doubt is human. The goal is to stop treating doubt as authority. Next time you feel that familiar tightening after making a choice, pause. Notice the sensation without obeying it. Tell yourself, doubt is here, but it doesn't get to decide. Then move forward anyway, because a life spent over-analyzing every step is smaller than a life spent learning through motion. You don't need perfect certainty to build something meaningful. You need courage to act with incomplete information. And every time you act despite doubt, you teach your nervous system something powerful. I can handle this. Decision by decision, rep by rep, you rebuild self-trust. You stop living on trial in your own head, and one day you realize something quietly profound. You were never bad at making decisions. You were just waiting for permission to trust yourself. And that permission? It was always yours to give.